Hi there, everyone. My name is Christian Eschbach, and welcome to Disc 2 of the David Bowie Ziet 77 through 79 package that I picked up a little while ago. It contains 4 different albums from Bowie, those 4 different albums being Heroes, which I covered in my last review, this review, in which we are going to be doing Low, and then the next 2 will be Lodger and Stage. I will be covering the whole package as a whole at the end of Stage. If you have not watched the video for Heroes yet, go to watch that. That way you will get the intro on the rest. All right, into Low. Released in 1977. So, at least according to my computer sometimes I know messes up dates and whatnot. So, if I go by what my computer says in the music player, these were both released in 1977. Quite a bit to release in 2 years. But I think I know why. I want to say nose candy and synthesizers. Okay. And the only reason why I say that is Alice Cooper basically did a similar thing a little bit afterwards. Bowie beat him to the nose candy and synthesizers. I could be wrong on that, but I mean, look at that picture of Bowie. That kind of reeks of nose candy and synthesizers, like Alice did at that time. I mean, really, yeah. That's very much like this Alice picture right here. Okay, so moving along. Here we go. Album kicks off with Speed of Life. This is, now I say this a lot with Bowie, and with Bowie, this is always an important thing, is some of his best stuff is always his most danceable stuff. The stuff has got the most groove to it. This is another very danceable track that I never knew about before buying this album, except this song has a bit more life, no pun intended, and a variety of musical flavors. Oh, and did I mention it's an instrumental song? Yeah, this is going to be an interesting album, man. Okay, so we're kicking off with an instrumental track, and this is a good danceable instrumental track. If you watched the last review, you will have heard me mention there is a lot more instrumental stuff than I am used to with these albums here. There is so much instrumental stuff with these albums that if I took all the instrumental stuff off of these albums and put it together on one album, I could fully fill out one album of just Bowie instrumental from one time period. It's insane. It's awesome. All right. From there, we go into Breaking Glass. This one has a bit of a punk vibe, something that feels a little ska-ish with the backbeats. I kind of kept wanting to think The Clash was kind of the vibe I was kind of feeling on this one a little bit. Overall, not a song I'm really overly into, but I do like the guitar work on the song. I thought the guitar work sounded pretty cool. Then we get into What in the World. This one is very, very new wave, and it's not the type of new wave I'm into. I'm so-so about new wave, I'll be completely honest. And when I say new wave, which will come up a lot in these album reviews, I mean pop new wave, obviously not new wave British heavy metal. This would have been actually technically before that and does not apply. Okay. After that, we got Sound and Vision. This one feels like a 60s throwback, which is kind of nice. Just the overall sound of it, really kind of late 60s, closer modern update technology-wise. Now, I should say these are all remastered, so they've got great sound quality to them. This one was remastered in 99. So it's not the most modern digital remastering, but it's still remastering, which is fantastic. And I like to think of it as sounding more like his late 60s stuff. If it had been recorded, a decade later and then remastered, 2 decades after that. And that's kind of how Sound and Vision sounds, it is slightly out of place on this album, even within most of this time period because of that sound. And it's interesting because that 60s throwback kind of sound, once again, was ahead of the curve because that would become a really popular sound in about 3 to 4 years after this album came out. I remember that 60s throwback sound started becoming really huge. Maybe even a little bit longer than that, a little bit about a decade later. I remember when that 60s throwback thing really started to kick in around 80, 86, between 86 and 88, man. You started getting a lot more 60s throwback. Always Crashing in the Same Car is next up after that. This one is musically interesting. It has some cool kind of sci-fi elements into the music sound. A lot of music elements that the late 70s, early 80s, you would find in a lot of sci-fi programming, whether it be Doctor Who, Buck Rogers, Battlestar Galactica, the original run, stuff kind of like that. But with a little more, obviously, of a music a real music kind of element to it. Yeah, that's kind of the best way I'm going with that one. And that kind of vibe, that sci-fi vibe, comes up a couple times on this album. Be My Wife. I really like the piano on this one. Really like the piano on this one. The chord playing and just the hammering on the chords. The boom, 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 boom. It was the boom, 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 boom. Just really great vibe to it. This is another one of those songs that I'm really kind of surprised. I never heard it before buying this album. Really, really good tune. I would totally put this in a Bowie mix. Like if I was putting together a best of or a great deep cuts kind of album, like those tracks that people should know and they don't know, I would definitely put this one on there because it's just really good tune. A New Career in a New Town. Okay, so we're moving back into an instrumental section of this album again. Now, when I say an instrumental section of this album, there are parts of this that there is vocals in, and sometimes I'm not sure if the vocals are just in a regular different language or if they're in a unique different language, a different dialect, different kind of language. Because I know Bowie experiments with that on one of his albums, and I don't believe it's this one. I believe it's one of the ones possibly later on. I haven't listened to a lot of Bowie into the 80s or the 90s, to be completely honest. I'm slowly working my way through there now. But this one, when I get into this section with the different vocals in that, when they are done, they're kind of done in a chanting kind of way, in a kind of like if you're going to listen to Gregorian monks or something like that, So it's not what's being said so much as the way it's being projected and way it's being said. To me, it's a lot more like a actual instrument or a sampling or whatnot, not really a true vocal. Okay, so New Career in Town. Song's bouncy, it's enjoyable. Okay, then we get into Warsaw. I think that's what it says, Warsaw, or the Poland. I believe that's what that is, right? Yeah. And this is kind of, to me, sounds exactly like what I would have expected for that time. 1977, so we're talking, Soviet control on one side, not Soviet control on the other side, dark and ominous, with light shades of beauty scattered in between, but even that beauty still has like a coldness to it, like when people think of Poland, they always think of it as that cold, desolate Poland. They never think of it as the nice Poland in the summertime, you know. There are, like I said, there are some of these tracks that have vocals. This one has vocals in it. I'm not sure if the vocals in there are supposed to be done in Polish or not. I don't know Polish, so I couldn't have told you on my best day. I believe this is Polish that I'm thinking of when I'm thinking of Warsaw. If not, man, I'm putting up a lot of corrections right now. There is also, so the language part, I don't know what's going on. And then you've got a lot of background chanting. The whole thing, as I mentioned, Gregorian monks, it gives it a very kind of almost religious kind of experience to me. And I think it's a great song. I think it really gives a great vibe without telling you anything. Like personally telling you anything. All right. Then we get to Art Decade. Very sci-fi vibey. It's cool to listen to. I like listening to the instrumentation on it. Experimental, but it's just kind of this cool kind of sci-fi vibe music going on. That goes into Weeping Wall, and I don't even notice the change from Art Decade into Weeping Wall. It flowed that well, I guess, or I wasn't maybe paying quite enough attention as I was writing down notes. I'm not sure. They just flowed really nice into each other. And by the time the song's done, I'm ready. Like I had mentioned, I'm ready to put together a Bowie instrumental album because they're just really great music from this time period. And then the album finishes off with Subterraneans, and this is definitely weird and interesting. Really unique way to finish off the first album, or finish off this album. Sorry, not first album. I enjoy it immensely, and still consider it an instrumental, even though it has vocals. But the vocals don't feel vocally, it's more like if you're putting together a score, maybe instead of calling an instrumental album, I'll say a musical score album. So, Bowie's Low. Once again, this is an album for musicians, I think. This is an album for people that want to hear something different. But you gotta like 80s music, I think, as well. You gotta like new wave, you gotta kind of like synth pop. You gotta like that stuff, because if you don't like that stuff, the album's not gonna work for you. That's the best way I know how to explain that. It's definitely not an album for everybody. I am glad I picked it up. I looked at it many times over the years because it's got a cool album cover. But it took until I found the Ziet pack before I bought it. Anyways, I'm going to end it there. Let me know what you think. Comment section, that's what it's for. While you're down going towards the comment section, in the description, you'll notice there's a link there to go to Patreon. Feel free. Like button, subscribe button, little bell for notifications, please and thank you. Peace, love, take care.